Hello, everyone, and welcome to the writer's class. And I actually got it right. 4 podcasts, and I remembered which one that this show was going on. And once we end up putting it on the end, I thought, ladies, like, what? Up we go. And then people gonna be like, this is not the writer's class. That's probably half the reason people stop listening in the middle. But then it's past that. It'd be like, it's normally like in that like 15-minute mark. They'll be like, yeah, I give up. But they're already past the introduction, so I guess that's not that problem. I'll figure that one out later. Anyway, I'm Winona, and I remember to introduce myself. High five to me. I got to do the dance. Little dance. Little dance here. Okay, stretch it out. Stretch it out. Okay, that's hot. That's good enough, right? Even for a narcissist, that dance was a little long. Just a little, because it was bad. I could see myself on camera, and I know how bad it was. And I kept going. Oh, my God. And I wanted the And I Thought ladies. And you know what the And I Thought ladies wrote? A bunch of books about And I Thought. Yup. Just let that resonate. We were so original with our name, right? Yeah. And I thought divorce was bad. And I thought being grown up was easy. If only I were me, a memoir in verse, Foreign Coffee, Widow's Web, and Widow's Debt. That is 6 books, 6 audio books. One day I'm hoping to get to 7, 8, 9, and 10. That would be great because we have 20 some books. So if you were counting, you recognize that 6 and 20 some books don't add up and equal each other, then you're right. So you can find out about the rest of the books at www.andithoughtLadies.com. Which is funny I say that because I know we have like our newest book up there, like, please buy our newest book. And then we have like the other ones about this big. So I should say it's 6 books plus buy our newest book and this big on the other ones. But you're not here to hear about me, which is a shame. Because I really wanted you to come hear about me. Because I'm a narcissist. But you're here to hear about our wonderful guests. So I'm going to have to say wonderful guests. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello. Hi, everybody. My name is Florence A. Bliss. I am a debut author, historical romance author. Got my first book called Taken by His Sword coming out soon, and actually June 11th. And I'm very excited to be here today. So thank you, Winona, for giving me that intro.
I'm sorry, it's Taken by His Sword. Is she pierced? I mean, obviously, you're going to have that question.
I have that's one I haven't thought about, but it would make a good epilogue, maybe.
The sequel. And everyone's going to think that book has to do with earrings.
Yeah, I guess so, huh?
Yeah. All right. Let me get to real questions. Historical romance. My question I always ask, how much research?
I did a lot of research, but here's the thing. There are certain questions that you can't find out there. So you can read about world history, you can read about the area of that time, but there's other things that you can't really find the information on, which is nice because then I can just make it up if I want to. So if somebody else can't quickly Google something, then I can just say whatever I want. So in terms of like the history of it, it's pretty historically accurate. I did have, people read through it. I have one friend who, she's studied history and world history for a long time, and she read through it. And she's like, they wouldn't say this, and they don't have this kind of sword here. And I was like, ooh, okay. So I would fix that stuff. But other things, like I would come up with questions like, there's a ball scene. There's a ball, a fancy party. Like, did they have food at balls? I don't know. Were there people walking around with trays? Because would imagine that, but trying to find answers to things like that was kind of difficult. So I was like, well, I guess I just get to make it up now. So that's good. But in terms of like the history and the place and the time, I did make it fairly historically accurate. So that was a lot of time.
Oh, what drew you to historical fiction? I mean, there's so many types of fiction.
With the romance aspect, I think it was the first romance book I ever read. My friend and I, when we were 20, we were shy and we wanted to read historic or romance novels. And I think we went and I bought one for her and she bought one for me and we switched it because we were embarrassed. And that was just the first one I read, was a historical romance, and then I liked it. And then in terms of the romance, there's extra layers of why they can't be together than there would be in contemporary. Because in contemporary, I think it's a harder job because you're like, well, just get together. What's the problem? But there's more rules and societal pressure and stuff in the historical sense, which I think makes it fun in terms of creating tension between the characters. So that's why I kind of went that direction.
So I'm going to throw myself into this interview. Obviously, I mean, how long did you expect a narcissist to be quiet? Oh my God. Um, so like I remember when I was first reading novels, obviously everyone normally comes in on romance, and I did. I came in on a romance novel and went straight to the Clancy section. Um but
Yeah.
I remember reading it going, "Oh, this would be great to write." And then I was like, "Research." And I went, "No, this isn't me. That's a lot." Like, how do they know this happened? And I was like, they'd have to research it. Nope, nope, not me. So was it harder than you thought it would be?
Well, some of it was, I started with, I had an idea basically for the story and the dynamic between the hero and the heroine. And, you know, he had betrayed her and she's a sword fighter and a mercenary, and they end up having to work together. So I had that kind of dynamic there. I think we see so much of it on TV. We see so many period dramas and stuff. So we kind of already have an image in our head of how this time period works. But actually, when I would get stuck on things and think, okay, well, there needs to be a bad guy, you know, I need this to happen in the plot. I need them to get here. I would just start reading about the time period and kind of, so it was actually kind of helpful. It was more helpful than I expected, because when I needed new plot points, I was like, oh, didn't realize this kind of thing existed at the time. So I could use that. So it
Or
was
like some
good.
really odd rules?
What was that?
The oddest rule that you found, like of society.
The oddest rule of society. I don't know specifically. I'd have to think about it. I think, you know, this doesn't go for the this is actually for book number 2 that I'm researching right now, finding that wife stealing was still happening for a lot longer than we maybe anticipated. I mean, I guess you could say it for in different places, it's happened for a long time, but in Europe and stuff like that, it was still going on kind of beyond where I would have expected it to stop. So those were some surprising details that I came across.
You know, like when you were reading in school and you read some fiction and they're like, they just came and raided. Or when you started reading history and it was like, they came and raided. And then you recognize they were still stealing people's like women. You're like, what?
Yeah.
Why? What was the purpose of that? You do know we're like a headache as well. I mean, we give you kids and we're still annoying. I'm
Like,
joking about that. I'm sorry. What they should have invented was credit cards back then. They would have left them where they were.
they wouldn't have needed it, right?
It would have been like steal, and you'd be like, no, 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 don't forget her debt. Has to go with all the shopping. Don't forget the fur coats. Everything has to go with. I'm like, never mind, she can stay. It's
Yeah, it's too complicated now. It's fine.
a lot of work.
It's fine. I'll just try to woo somebody instead.
Some effort into it. Oh my God. I'm sorry. History always surprises you.
Yeah,
You're like, I swore I knew this. And then you're like, oh crap.
I didn't know anything about this. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I completely ran off on the wife stealing section. Like that used to get me for the longest time.
Yeah.
So get me. But I guess never mind. I was about to bring it up to modern day, but no one wants to talk about that.
Yeah, that's beyond my fiction writing expertise. That
Yeah.
better, smarter people need to deal with that. I mean,
Back to the fun and fluffy world of romance and
yes,
fiction.
yes.
So
No wives got stolen in my book, though. That was that came
thank
across.
you. I was literally
There
just
was no
like,
stealing of wives in this novel and taken by his sword. No.
No, I mean, honestly, could there be? There's a sword person, a sword woman, and a mercenary. No one's stealing anything besides, maybe a
No.
few plundering of something, money, other people's money.
Well, there's a few plundering scenes in there, so.
Yes, we have plundering. Was it hard? Was it hard to create that? I guess you said with the rules, it makes it a little easier why people can't be together. But was it hard to create that right level of stress in between that, will they, won't they?
Yeah, that's a really hard thing to do in any kind of fictional piece. I mean, as a fiction writer, you're constantly saying, is there enough tension in this scene? Is it going to pull the reader along? Is it something that somebody's going to want to turn the page for? So, and then adding that extra element of like a sexual tension, that's challenging. But that was writing their chemistry was the easy part for me. That was the fun part, and filling in all the rest of it, and all the story kind of grew out of that. So I did a lot of overwriting because I ended up trying to figure out how I was gonna, like I said, get them from one place to the next and do this, and I knew this had to happen. So throughout it, that was a little, that ended up taking more time than I expected, but keeping the story tension going and the couple dynamic tension going, it's just a lot to think about. You've got a lot of plates up in the air as you're as you're writing, but the dynamic, the tension between them was fun. I think I did that pretty well.
Oh, the only reason I asked is because I know it's hard for me to do.
It can be. I mean, writing romance, writing love scenes, it's difficult to go. You don't want to be too graphic, but depending on where your spice level is at and what, market or audience you're trying to hit, you don't want to just be like, and then it faded to black, and then everybody woke up with a smile on their face the next day. So you got to really hit where you're comfortable, because you end up using words that you wouldn't use normally in ways, and you're like, ooh, hope that one goes over well. So you got to really find where you're comfortable as a writer. So
That's amazing. That is amazing to hear. Like, I've always wondered what goes into those love scenes. I don't mind reading them, but I'm always like, how did you write that? Because you think it's easy, then you start writing, and then you're like, oh, I'm gonna need
it's
yeah.
tough. I think specifically for the romance below scenes, I always have some other thing going on between them. It's supposed to just be ratcheting up their relationship in one way or another. So there's, the physical aspect, but what's happening emotionally for one of the characters, wherever they may be. So that helps, kind of balance it. But I wrote these dirty scenes, and then my mom read it, and she still is okay as with me as her child. So I think that they're acceptable.
You were brave. You were like, my mom read it. That's
My
amazing.
mom read it. I couldn't keep her from it. And not because it's dirty, but she's like, no, my daughter wrote something, I'm gonna write it. So
Be nice. That must be so nice. On my end, when my mother was alive, she'd be like, my daughter wrote something that's nice. I think it's because I wrote so much. Then she finally read what I wrote, and she was like, oh my God, it's not romance. I got published when I was 10 years old, and you've read nothing else since then. See.
I'm sure she was very proud.
She was always proud. So I assumed she always read it. And then she was like, well, dang it, if it ain't romance. So what was your publishing journey like?
It was hard. It was really, really challenging. I came from a literary fiction background, so I had been writing before, never had anything, I mean, a couple mediocre short stories here and there, but I never really went into the journey of writing a book and getting it published. And I had a friend actually say he knew somebody that had gone to one of the writing conferences that he met, and he said, she just writes romance for money. And I thought, I could write romance for money. But then I ended up falling in love with the genre and my stories and everything. But I wrote this, I started querying this probably 5 or 6 years ago, and could not get any bites on it. Finding an agent's hard. It's tough. It's tough work. And if anybody's watching that's looking for an agent, just it's really painful process. So I never got an agent, but I went to the Romance Writers of America conference, and they had pitching to different publishers there, and I participated in that, and I got hooked up with City Owl. So they, let me pitch to them. They requested my first 50 pages. And then luckily enough, I got hooked up with Jessica Shearer, who's my editor, and she kind of championed me to them. And that was it. So that happened in September of this year. And then since then, it's just been up and down and zooming along, with edits and going back and forth. And so it's been very exciting compared to, sending a query letter out and then 9 months later getting a rejection. You're like, thanks, guys. That was nice that you remembered me. So
Hey, it's nice of you, because a lot of times they're like that and ghosted. And then,
yeah,
but then
absolutely.
you meet literary agents and you understand why. Because I mean, that workload is insane.
Yes, absolutely. I do really appreciate the people that get back to me eventually, but it's funny because it's like I'm still getting rejections sometimes now. From a year ago, I'm like, wow, you really are persistent working through that pile, getting to the queries. But I'm like, thank you, but it's kind of comical how long it's just a slow process. So,
Yeah, it's a very long work day.
yes.
Such a long work day. And I know one or two agents, they were like, I was just starting out, so I had to get, another job because I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, it's a real long work day.
Yeah, I can imagine. Gosh, geez. I like to be alone at my little computer, just clacking away when I have time.
So I heard literary fiction. And
Mhm.
I've always wanted to jump in on literary fiction. So what made you go literary fiction? Was it an MFA or did you
I
just
had
go?
an MFA. Yeah, I started out as a biochemistry major. I wanted to work in the CDC and research diseases. And all through coronavirus, my family had to listen to me going, I could be there right now. I could be researching this thing right now. But one day I was having all kinds of viral fantasies about that. But I, I just got sick of looking in microscopes one day. So I was like, how can I finish my undergrad in a reasonable amount of time? And I finished it in education because my mom was a teacher. So I was like, I'll just wrap it up, finish up in education. In my last semester, I was like, what am I going to do now? And I took a creative writing class and I had a little bit of spunk. I was pretty good at it. So then I applied and got into an MFA program after that. So I did MFA and I did my MFA at UNLV in Las Vegas. And it was great. It was,
Vegas?
huh?
You based in Vegas?
Yeah, Las Vegas, yeah.
Henderson Writers Group?
I'm not in that. I'm on the other side, but are you familiar with them?
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. Like our own during COVID is when I actually joined the one that I live near. I'm in Maryland, so I joined the
Okay.
Maryland Writers Association. But until then, I was a member of the Henderson's Writers Group
Oh, wow.
because I kept flying out to Vegas to do stuff because I knew them and they're writers and board. So I was like, why would I bother? They're freaking like I'll get to Maryland when I get to.
Well, it worked out. It was perfect.
So during COVID, I had to join.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird. But yeah, so UNLV, MFA, sorry.
I did my MFA there. And it was funny because I was very new to writing at that point, because I just kind of got into it at the end of my bachelor's. And genre writing is very looked down upon by the MFAs, because it's all about literary fiction. But I never could really find my voice in that because, first of all, I was in my 20s. I was young. I didn't have a lot of life experience and I didn't really know what to write about. So I was writing stories that didn't always seem authentic to me. So then when I started writing the romance and historical, which I realized I could just make up whatever the heck I want. And that's when it kind of clicked. So I do have that background, but in terms of the battle with MFAs over genre versus literary, I'm like, I want to enjoy it. Like, I want to enjoy it. I
I
want
think
people
that's the
to
best.
enjoy it.
That is the best answer. You know, honestly, every time I hear someone say literary, that is literally all I want to know. Is like, where do we stand on this battle of genre versus?
It was always like the guys that were like, no, you have to do this. And none of them, none of them were any better than anybody else. And, they're all, I don't know, they're probably all writing their space stories right now, secretly in a dark room, writing their Lord of the Rings stuff. And I'm writing romance, and it worked out well.
It works out great. They both sell well. Well, romance
Yes.
sells.
Yeah.
They both sell well. I mean, yes, literary is a dying art, but is it?
I mean, it's great. It's so many wonderful things that people write and stuff, but I couldn't access it. It just wasn't working for me. So I think I found my home here in romance. That originally it was my hope to kind of break into the industry this way and be able to, go more literary as I expanded. But I'm really happy with where I am, and it's a great writer community of romance writers and stuff, and other women and some men too. So it's, I'm very happy with it. We'll see how the book does. We'll see how the book does, guys, and then we'll
And
see
then
where
we'll
I
know how
stand.
happy I am. When those royalty checks come in, I will know how happy I am. There you go.
Yeah, right. I have zero expectations at this point. I'm just so thrilled that City Owl was like, sure, we'll publish your book. And I'm sure that it's going to sell 100 copies, 99 of which are to my mom, because she's gonna she's gonna shut it down. She'll buy all the copies, and then we'll see if anybody likes it from there.
Oh my goodness. It has been an absolute blast talking to you.
You too.
Oh,
You're a lot of fun.
what do you have coming up next? Because we already know there's a book too. But what else do you think you're going to do with your literary career?
Well, this one, Taken by a Sword, is the first one. The second one's actually right here. I've been editing all day.
Mm.
So see, got my notes and stuff on there. So I'll be working on that. I would love to say that that one's going to come out. It is meant to be a series of 3 books. I've got lots of other ones in me. I do have some literary books in me too. Maybe I'm have enough life experience to make those work. So we'll see. But like I said, I love romance, and as long as they keep letting me do it, I'll keep writing them.
So I should mention that I am a literary writer. And
You are, yeah.
you don't you don't necessarily have to have your own life experiences. You know what the fun part about stories is you can hear them. You can
That's
hear
true.
stories, and some stories are so amazing they have to be written down. And there you go. That is the beginning of a literary tale.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go a little deeper into my narcissism. So one day we when we're a little late on turning into something, we go to a bar, one of the bars, and we met this guy, and it's been 9 years later, and we hung out with him this weekend at an author's retreat. He is 7 books into his writing career,
Wow.
and he's like, the only reason he started writing is because he met us at a bar.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the only reason we became friends. We were sitting at a bar because we were late on writing. We were almost late. We had 3 more days to turn in a manuscript, and we needed to write something. And there we go. So went to our favorite bar, and we wrote
It was just,
there. And he had great stories. Amazing.
wow.
So we just listened to them and went up to our room and wrote them all down and finished the book.
And you got stories from him, and then he ended up starting his own writing career. Wow, that's really amazing.
Yeah, he said he wanted to write, and so we had him on our podcast. We encouraged him, and he now has a #1 bestseller in YA and Amazon.
Wow. I
Yeah.
can dream. Maybe you're the bellwether, you're the ticket. Now I've made contact. So it's gonna happen for me too. And in 7 years.
One person. I think
Oh,
we have enough luck for one. I'm sorry.
dang it. Well, 9 years. Let's do another interview and we'll see.
Exactly, exactly. Oh my God. So can you tell people where they can find out more information about you, about your book, and what's coming up next?
Yeah, I have a website that I put together, which is hard to do for a writer because I don't know how to do that stuff, but I figured it out. I watched tutorials and I did all that. So florenceabliss.com is my website, and it's got all my information on there. Also, I'm on Goodreads. I'd love friends on Goodreads. I'm on Instagram. I'm florence.a.bliss on Instagram. And then, of course, the book is on Amazon. So it's Taken by His Sword. It comes out June 11th. So pretty exciting.
Thank you so very, very,
Thank
very much
you.
for taking the time out of your day. Okay, so since she's wrapped up, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for us over here. I'm Winona, and there's occasionally a Jade on either side of me. One time, every blue moon now, she pops up as like, "Hi, I'm JD." Uh, and we are the And I Thought Ladies. You can find out everything that your ladies are doing at www.andithoughladies.com. And while you're there, go down to the middle of the page and you can see the 3 charities that we proudly support. We ask that you give them your support. That does not necessarily mean money, although I'm sure they'd appreciate that. It could mean time, or sometimes it could just mean resources or knowledge. And we thank you in advance for that. Remember that wisdom is all around you if you're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys, from Winona and the Missing Jade. Oh, yeah. Thanks for listening.